Steve, a very big welcome to Coventry
Thank
University,
you.
and thank you particularly for agreeing to be an employer partner in this initiative between the Chartered Management Institute and the university for the benefit of our postgraduate students.
You're welcome.
Could you actually start by just telling us a bit about yourself, what you do, perhaps the kind of products that you're involved with, and the different things you've done in the past, maybe?
Yes, certainly. Where do I start? I've been self-employed pretty much all my life, and although I was in more of a profession in the past, in financial services, and although I started, I don't know how far you want me to go back, but I started I was due to go in the forces. That didn't happen for whatever reason, and then I started cleaning cars for a living, and that graduated into selling cars for a living, and then I was approached by somebody in financial services to try that. 27 years later, I sold my practice, and that was back in 2015. I was at a certain age where I decided to think, well, there's a bucket list in life, and one of them was to make a living out of my hobby, which was classic motorbikes and scooters. So I found a little unit, which I thought was a little large at the time, but it was a perfect place, and that was at Fargo Village, and opened a workshop there to restore old Lambrettas, Vespas, classic motorbikes. Second day of opening, Piaggio turned up, and they make Vespas and various other makes, and asked if I would be interested in becoming a natural dealer. I said no, but my ego got the better of me, and that was back in September 2014. By February 2015, new motorbikes and scooters were arriving from Italy, and that was it. And then we became a dealership. Since then, I've moved on from them and gone independent, as it were, specialising in, again, my love, which is classic motorbikes and scooters. And so it's gone from there, really, and we're just coming up to its fourth birthday in September, later on this month.
This is a bit interesting because do you still see it as your hobby? Is it still your love?
Yeah, I think I've learned over the years that in the end, if you don't do what you enjoy doing, you don't enjoy every day. You know, and some days you enjoy most of the day, but not all of the day. But if your heart's not in it, going into business, don't do it. Right. That's my personal view. Because in the end, you won't be successful.
That's very interesting. One of the important aspects that our students are looking at is leadership, on whatever level. Could you comment on leadership in business?
I do know that leadership in businesses is very, very important, and it's a key. It's a key. What can I say? Benefit to a business person. If they can be leaders, then they become more successful. I've noticed the people myself, the people who can delegate and lead people, their business becomes more successful and less stressful. Unfortunately, I haven't been over the years that good at that, but I've learned, and you need to delegate. If you don't delegate, you can't do it all on your own, as you'll stay on your own.
Right.
You know? So leadership is important, but it's handling people and managing people is there's certain ways to do that as well. You can't just tell people to do something and then they only get feedback if you've done something wrong. The important thing is to catch them doing things right. So every time they do something right, you tell them they've done it right and thank them for doing it right. And I find that then them doing things wrong becomes extremely rare.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah.
So
that leads directly on to the next question, which is about sort of authority and responsibility, accountability. Now, since you're a business owner, presumably the authority and the buck stops with you.
It does.
Can you talk a bit about that position?
Yes. Don't lose sleep over it. You know, there are times that you know, you think, oh God, I've got to face the customer and explain this, But honesty with customers and suppliers and regulators, you know, you're human. You will get things wrong, and if you put your hand up and explain, I think you know it isn't really a worry. However, there are times where, you know, the pressure is on, and the book does stop with me. But again, with delegation, you can spread that.
But presumably you actually like that position, the fact that you're
I must do.
the guy in control. Yeah.
I must do, because I can't resist it. I can't. There's many times throughout my career that I've had the opportunity to think, right, I've been offered jobs and so on, where big fat salary, nice car and so on and so forth, and it's really attractive. And well, she's now my ex-wife, and this might be a reason that she was all for it. But you know, with young children and going through university and fees and so on and so forth, having that opportunity, it seems like the ultimate. But to me, it never was. I just couldn't do it. I tried it a few times and just got frustrated.
Having said that, there must be a position where you haven't sold as much as you hoped for in a particular time period.
Very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you kind of deal with that?
You just carry on.
Right.
I think the thing to do is you can worry about. Many people have heard this before, but they don't actually live it, and I've started to live it, and that is the 1 foot in the past and the 1 foot in the future, and then you worry about the present or do something to the present. Just you know, if you worry about what's happened too much, or more so what's going to happen too much, you don't enjoy life, and really in the end, you look back and it was never really that bad. I mean, I've come close to the wire quite a few times, and in the end, it's not that bad. You get through it.
Presumably, say at the end of a year, you say, okay, hopefully you say we did better than we hoped, but you might say we didn't do quite as well as we hoped. Do you then sort of adjust the plan going forward?
Yeah, it's important to know where you want to be,
yeah.
and then you can work out how you're going to get there.
Right.
If you just drift along willy-nilly, then you'll never know really. See, in business, is one of the most important things I've found is that you need to measure what you're doing and stop doing things that aren't profitable.
Right.
And do more of things that are profitable. And unless you measure what you're doing, you'll never know which one's which. So you can go through life being extremely busy and not understanding why you're not making very much money.
So when you say measure, in what terms?
Well, look at the profit, look at the input. It's not just money, it's time. Enjoy how you enjoy it, the skills that you've got and so on. Because you could, you know, the other important thing, and I'll come onto this in a moment, but if you need to have money behind you, it's not a lot of money, just don't go into debt without being able to control it. And then what you'll do then is make better decisions. So, and then also it's almost like your money. So if you get approached by a supplier and you like the look of what they've got to offer, you're more careful about what steps you take towards that. You might like it, but you need to look at it carefully, because it's your own money in a way that you're using into it, not borrowed money. And so, yeah, it's a difficult question to answer, because you can't really measure what you're doing until you've done it.
Right.
Okay, so you can go into a line of a particular product and think, this is it, this is going to do well. And then you need to look back and think, is it really doing well? You know, it's not down to the numbers of, for example, one particular make of scooter, we sold buckets, loads of them. There was loads going out all the time. We were really, really busy. Everybody else was extremely pleased with us, but when you looked at the profit margin, what you're actually making, it was very small.
Yeah.
Because the market was too competitive. There was too many other dealers having to perhaps discount to the point where there was hardly any profit left in the vehicles. And to compete with that, you had to sort of match it or come close. And then you're as busy as they are, but you're not really making any. You're not giving yourself enough success to enjoy the other parts of life that you need to.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah.
Remember that are still there.
Well, that's
you know?
Brilliant. Now, another of the words that's important to our students is entrepreneurship. as a part of business, how would you view entrepreneurship?
It's a funny word, isn't it? There's entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and then you can talk somebody who's a multi-billionaire is an entrepreneur, but somebody who has got a small little business is an entrepreneur. What links the two? I think it's being in control of your own life, and I think it's. I like to think that if something, this isn't my life. I don't think it's a rehearsal. So it's down to me to map it out in the way I want it to be.
But one generally assumes
yeah.
that an entrepreneur in those terms, as you say, whether they're kind of huge or smaller, has taken a level of risk.
Oh yes, risk is what life's all about.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got to take a risk.
So evidently you
Yeah.
quite enjoy that aspect.
I do, yeah.
Yeah,
I
right.
do. Yeah, almost to the point where you think, an example, only yesterday, the shop was shut yesterday, but I'd never seemed to not be there, and I always call in, and the phone rang, I picked up the phone, and I ordered, on the base of that conversation, that's all, I ordered 3 motorbikes.
Right.
Because they were talking about having 3 motorbikes, and I'm so convinced they're going to come in and buy them.
Right.
I've ordered them.
Right.
Now, if they don't, I've got quite a few £1,000s to spend,
Yeah.
and I haven't sold them. It's almost you can't help it. You think, yes, it's going to happen. It's not like buying a lottery ticket and thinking this is going to be the winner. It's not like that.
Yeah.
You tend to calculate. It's pretty calculated.
So,
you know.
okay, so to some extent, the risk is wanting to kind of rest on your own judgment
Yeah.
and see if your judgment comes out
Yeah.
trumps, really.
Yeah,
Is
you
it-
sort of prove yourself
Yeah.
right.
That's interesting.
But you need to have, how can I put it, a reserve in there.
Yeah.
You can't just make silly risks. I mean, that's a stupid thing to do. But this order, I know I'll sell them
Right.
eventually if
Yeah.
if this lady doesn't buy them.
I said, but
Mhm.
what you're saying is, if it doesn't happen the way you hope, you have to say, okay,
Yeah,
we can go through that one. And
we can get out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You need to make sure there's
yeah,
a way of there's a way out.
yeah. Okay, that's great. Another question is about change, and my question here says it's known that change is always part of life. Have you found that change has been a good thing or an oppressive thing?
Change is not always a good thing in life. There's always a reason for it, and you're not always in control of that reason. But I think change, certainly my experience of over the last 4 years, well, the big change was coming out of selling my practice,
Right.
which was extremely financially rewarding, but it wasn't rewarding me in other ways, and changing into something that I love doing, that it isn't anywhere near as financially rewarding. But I think that change was good, because I enjoy my life more now. And but change in business, I mean, with what's going on around us all the time, Brexit, of course, and so on, it is daunting, but I think it's a good thing. We've got,
Yeah.
if we don't change, we've got to change, and just try and steer that change, if that answers your question.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
one of the things that's interesting is that this is purely for interest's sake. I mean, do you find that your customers as a group are the same customers, or do they change? Do new sorts of customers?
That's a good
come?
question, because the answer is no. To start, when the shop first opened, because it was mainly scooters and classic scooters.
Yeah.
It was full of the scooter scene.
Oh yeah.
Especially with the Coventry link to the specials and so on. And
Yeah.
it was just, the shop was absolutely packed. And there were scooters all the way down Gosford Street, and they're all parking up and so on, all with their parkers on and so on. And gradually things have changed, and that's still there, but nowhere near as much. And our product has changed, and the demographic of our customer base is very wide now.
Oh right. Okay.
It's from, we get people from, even on a city break, walk in the shop and buy 2 motorbikes, one each, just because they didn't know we were there, they thought they were wonderful, and they buy them.
Nice idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, you've got the commuters, students as well, need to get around,
Yeah.
and the cost of running a vehicle these days is getting higher and higher, from insurance to parking, and of course, having 2 wheels is an awful lot more economical
Yeah.
and more fun
Yeah.
than having 4.
So with your customers, there's a balance between pragmatism and pure that they like it, is there?
Yeah, I think we lean towards the more they like it.
Oh, right, okay.
You know, there's something about classic bikes and scooters.
Oh, yeah.
They're just wonderful.
Yeah.
You just look at them and you think, wow, look
I
at that.
agree, yeah.
If it's just a matter of getting A to B, we don't cater for that.
Right.
Although there are customers who still come to see us and they'll still buy from us.
Yeah.
But they want that look. And it's that's where we're
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
where we are.
How important is communication in business?
With your staff or with customers or
As a
generally?
general question, yeah.
It's, well, actually, here's me answering a question with a question, but the answer anyway is extremely important in every aspect.
Right.
If you don't shout out from the rooftops one way or the other that you're here, you do a good job, you want business, and you want to look after them, you are honest, you are loyal, you are reliable, then how are they going to find out? You know, it's just, people do talk, and our reputation is, we get a lot of people come in and they didn't know we were there, God knows how, but they didn't know we were there, but they've heard that we do a good job. But yeah, if you don't try and steer that, you can't just rely on word of mouth. You can't. You've got to make a splash.
So
somehow.
do you actually take proactive steps to advertise whatever?
Yeah, we've made some big mistakes in that, financially. In that you think, oh, we'll just throw some money at an advertising agency and they'll do it for you. It doesn't really work like that. It hasn't for us anyway.
Right.
Name awareness is getting involved in crazy things, like charity events.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And daft things at Christmas, which we've done, where we've had Father Christmas going around the ring road on a scooter.
And this does help.
I think so. It was fun doing it anyway.
Yeah,
I wasn't
okay.
Father Christmas, but it was fun sending them off. It was a really funny day, and it makes it fun as well.
Yeah.
And I've got business friends in business that are really good at that. And they'll raise money for charity, for example, but make a big splash fools of themselves. But next thing you know, it's in the papers, it's on the radio,
okay.
and that's worth more than thousands and thousands of pounds thrown at an advert.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
It's far more effective, you know. So communication in that respect, but with your staff, of course, you've got to give feedback, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just turn up and not say anything, because how can you expect them to know what you want them to do?
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Now, actually, the last question is about the future. I asked, what is your view of the future? And we're putting in the context of the external influences, the internal influences, and what are going to be the opportunities, and what are the potential barriers?
Cool.
Yeah, I know it's quite a big one.
As an entrepreneur, if you like to call it that way, I'm looking forward to the future more now than ever, and I'm leaning towards the uncertain future this country's got now, because I think if we steer it right, we can make something of it. I'm not one of these people who harp on back to the good old days, because they were never that good anyway. You know, so, but I think if we all have, if you have in your mind that anything's possible, it is. And so the future, as far as I'm concerned, is good, as long as you've got your health and you've got your sense of humour. There's one thing I always say to all my staff is, take the job seriously, but don't take yourselves too seriously. So whatever will come, we'll deal with it. And so it's not necessarily bad things that are going to come in the future. There's going to be some tremendous opportunities, massive opportunities. You've got to have your eyes open to spot them.
Oh,
and,
okay. That's interesting.
So whatever happens in the future, whoever we end up, you know, with, you know, we're still in Europe or not, or whatever, there's going to be opportunities. It's going to be some tough times as well, but there will be anyway.
Right.
The only thing that I would hope will change in the future is, I don't want to use the word regulation, but that's all that comes to my mind. I think regulation for the sake of regulation can be an extremely It's a massive obstacle to business.
Right. Okay.
It can be unbelievable. I don't like regulation where it doesn't make sense, but you can't argue against regulation.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean,
Sure.
because it's there for
Right.
good reason.
Yeah.
But that's what business can do. There's some very famous business people in the news at the moment whose their businesses are suffering badly, and they're saying, that very person I'm thinking of says exactly the same as the small businessman.
Yeah.
Now this particular person's worth apparently 170 million pounds,
Right.
and he's part of his chain is closing on various parts of the country. He's under extreme criticism, but I feel as though I know him. I don't know him,
Right.
but I feel as though I know him because I feel how he must feel, and it's really, he's saying exactly the same. The levels of rent, the levels of this fee to pay, that fee to pay, and so on and so forth. That's what I want to change. I think this country can. We're all good people here, and there's very few bad people.
Yeah.
So let's give us a chance.
Right.
You know.
So I would take it from that your basic message is, if you're going to go out in business, you have to be positive, and you have to see the cup half full, because that's in the nature of it. And the fun of it, maybe.
It's easy the cup half full thing is a good analogy, but it's almost too easy to say with all due respect.
Sure, no, it is. Yeah.
Because you do have your bad days.
Yeah.
And in your mind you can be extremely negative, but you've got to be careful how that comes out, especially to your staff and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think though that what I've learned over the years is when you're young, you worry, you think your life will be over. What's the point in 5 years plus? You know, I remember when thinking in the year 2000, I'll be 36. Oh, doesn't matter, does it? I'll be an old man by then. But when you're 36, you're still young.
It's totally different. Yeah.
So I would say there's a young lad who works for me, and he's particularly talented, and I keep saying to him, he's only 20, and I said, listen, Jack, you can be incredible success and lose everything and come back again in 5 years. You can actually use people who've done it and done it over and over and over and over again. So don't worry too much about your life, just get on with it. And if there's an opportunity, take it. And you want to do it, take it. Because in the end, if it fails, at least you've had a go.
Yeah, sure.
And even if at the end of your life and you look back and you think, oh, the mistakes I've made,
so
at least you
question.
could write a good book.
Would you say opportunities you make them yourself, or they just come?
They'll come. They'll definitely come.
Right.
But I think you make them yourself.
Okay.
And look as well. There's a chap who's very dear to me. He was the first chap I worked for, and very successful man. But he wouldn't know how much money he's got. He doesn't know. He just lives his life, and what he does what he enjoys. But he always said to me, Steve, if you think lucky, you'll be lucky.
Okay.
And that's not always right, but it's
but it's also a brilliant line to end on. So Steve, thanks very much. That was really interesting.
Thank you.
And finally, do you have a question for our students to consider in the writing of their reports?
Yes. Based on the fact that it's absolutely vital that you've got your foundations right when you're in business, especially when you're starting, the students should really ask themselves the question, what do you think those foundations are?
Thank you very much indeed.